So I'll do a little intro here from the side of Advancement Outreach. Advancement Outreach has been running programs this year with the intention of giving meetings not only an awesome program on a cold winter evening, but also ideas for what you may be able to take home and do in your own meeting. So while Bill, has his own proprietary presentation on gifts and leadings, we thought that the idea of cultivating gifts and leadings definitely fell into our theme. So the work of identifying and developing gifts and leadings is something that we would love to, share out and have meetings do more with in their individual monthly meetings. So we will continue to run a couple more programs in the spring, so look out for that. And some of the recordings, including the one that Bill is making today, are on our YouTube channel. So you can take a look at any programs you might have missed online, and they're on the website. So thanks again to Bill for that. Bill is our digital communications guy, and he is in Birmingham meeting in the Detroit area. So if there's anything else you want to say, Bill, I trust that you'll say it, but we're super happy to have you. Thanks so much for giving this.
Well, friends, it's good to be with you. I hear that it's Epiphany, the 12th day of Christmas. So hopefully I can bring light to the situation. I'm looking forward to this presentation. I did a version of this with Birmingham friends after the Rise of Meeting one Sunday, and I thought it was a useful conversation. I will claim that I am not an expert on this matter. This was more me doing some homework and sort of pulling together some examples and some materials. So I'm hoping that there'll be some sharing among the group as well. But I think it's useful, and I put together a handy packet which will be available to you as a to be used at your local meeting if you choose, or to refer to things that we talked about tonight. So what I'm going to do is I have a slide presentation, and I'm going to pull that up now. So let's make sure that works. So how about that? I put a crossroads here, gifts and leadings. Oftentimes they go in the same direction, but not always. My title for tonight is Gifts and Leadings Among Friends. And this is brought to you by the Lake Erie Yearly Meeting Advancement and Outreach Program. I want to start by saying that special gifts have long been recognized. It shows up in the Bible. The Apostle Paul frequently writes about the importance of embracing a range of gifts, including preaching, teaching, prophecy, healing, discerning, and ecstatic utterance. In keeping with a wider view, Friends increasingly use the word ministry to describe a variety of gifts that members often offer our faith community and the world around us, including faith-led social witness, chaplaincy, religious education, spiritual formation, and healing work. This comes from a nice website called the Inward Light website. There's this idea that gifts come from God, come from Spirit. This is a quote from 1 Corinthians. Now there are varieties of gifts, but the same Spirit. And there are varieties of services, but the same Lord. And there are varieties of activities, but it is the same God who activates all of them in every one. To each is given the manifestation of the Spirit for the common good. So the idea would be that the gifts may look different, but they're coming from a common source of Spirit. Joanna Jackson, who's a sort of an influencer within Quaker communities, talks about the importance of sharing your gifts in community. She says, living out our gifts is part of building a stronger faith community. We believe that the first step is recognizing what our gifts are and claiming them in the presence of a community. I have a picture here. Maybe you know Red Cedar Meeting. They were featured in a Friends Journal article about they've been doing some work in their local community. This is a mini pantry that they have put up. And this requires some gifts among members, such as organization, compassion and persistence to keep this pantry going. So, but sharing in community, I think the idea is that a gift becomes more real when you're sort of naming it and claiming it in the presence of friends. Shared spiritual gifts. I'm wondering if there might be some examples that friends see in your meetings. Do you have some examples that come to mind of shared gifts? I'm moving my screen around a little bit here while we talk. Anybody have any ideas?
Bill, I would say that the act of naming as like naming other people's gifts is a gift, is a spiritual gift. So it's kind of
Okay.
like eldering, right?
Yes.
To help people identify what gifts they might have and help them see it.
Thank you. Anything else coming to mind?
I have a small one. In my spiritual formation group, we have a young woman whose graduate degree is in study ancient studies. And the book we're reading is Teresa of Avila's the Mansions book. And so May is going to be clerking for us this next week. And I know she'll do a really good job because she's more familiar with the centuries around the Christian mystics and before that than the rest of us are.
Nice. So the study, the work that people do, learning about a particular area, the interest and commitment. Well, I've put together I'm calling them the gift baskets. And I'm hoping that I could get people to read these for me, going down each paragraph. I'll go down the first column and then go down the second column. I'm wondering if folks would be willing to take one of these and read it and then pass it on. I'll do the first one. Wisdom and discernment. Seeing the deeper spiritual dynamics in situations, helping a meeting sense when a decision has life in it, or recognizing when something is off spiritually. Julie, could you take one?
Teaching and shepherding, explaining faith in clear, accessible ways, accompanying people over time, tending the spiritual health of a group.
Clemence.
I'd like to read Encouragement and Mercy because that's my name.
Okay.
Sensing suffering quickly, offering comfort, and strengthening the discouraged so that they can continue in faithfulness.
Thank you. John.
I'll read service and hospitality then. Showing love through practical tasks, creating welcoming spaces, noticing and including those on the margins.
Aaron, are you available?
Administration and leadership, organizing groups, seeing how different people and tasks fit together, clerking or facilitating meetings so that spirit-led work can happen.
Karen. Or Peggy.
Prophecy and truth telling, perceiving and speaking needed truths about injustice, hypocrisy, or needed change under a tender concern rather than anger or self-importance.
Susan Hartman.
Prayer and intercession, being drawn to sustained, focused prayer for particular people, communities, or concerns, often quietly and over long periods.
Thank you. And finally, maybe Jeff, are you available?
Healing and reconciliation, contributing to physical, emotional, or relational healing, sometimes through listening, presence, or prayer for wholeness.
Thank you. I like this Quaker chorus. So do these seem familiar? Have you seen some of these buckets, these baskets of gifts in your communities? I hope so.
It's interesting that ministry is not there. Very interesting, Bill, because that's, I think, one of the things we all think of first when we talk about a gift of spirit.
Yes, yeah, I didn't really focus on the idea of being a minister in that more traditional sense. I'm thinking more about the life of the meeting, and ministry is part of it. But I think teaching, truth telling are all sort of part of that.
Absolutely. I like the broadening. I hope I made that clear.
Mhm.
We have two attenders, a couple who very much embody the prayer and intercession, being drawn to sustained, focused prayer. They actually lead some programs at the local Benedictine Center. And although they're not friends, when they are with us, and they're not always with us, but when they are with us, I find that our worship is just that much deeper because of their focus of prayer.
Good
They
example.
don't call it a meeting for worship, they call it the prayer meeting. But when they come, they just really give a depth to it that's missing when they're not there.
Yes.
I love how when I look at these, faces from my meeting pop up.
Okay. Yeah, there are different pieces to make a meeting run, aren't there?
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
wonder how much we welcome the gift of prophecy and truth telling.
It maybe has faded from our historically, maybe less central.
Well, I'm thinking that that can be quite a touchy one. Speaking truths is usually interpreted as you're being judgmental.
You see the second part of that, under a tender concern rather
Yes.
than anger or self-importance.
Well, the person with the gift may be, but the people receiving the gift may not
I
perceive
see.
it as a gift.
I see. Yes. Yes. Other thoughts on these baskets? So, um, some this idea of recording gifts in the ministry. In the past, many Friends meetings have had this practice of formally recognizing certain friends as gifted ministers. This still happens more commonly in programmed meetings. But my understanding is that the practice has really diminished, and there are reasons on both sides, pro and con, regarding the formal step of naming somebody, calling them out as having special gifts. Um, so I've included in the handout a selection on the practice of recording gifts in the ministry from the main quarterly meeting ministry and council committee report that lays out these issues. And I'm wondering, Susan Laux, if there's any chance you could find that. It's like page 3 or 4, the practice of recording gifts in the ministry. Opinions may vary. If you could read some of that for us.
Any particular section you want?
Just start at the top there. The first
Okay.
the first sentence is coming from a different section, but then after that it gets going.
The recording of gifts in the ministry is different from this utilitarian need. As Faith and Practice says, it is something which may be done when a member has consistently spoken to the edification and spiritual help of the meeting. Those of us who presently feel that it is a useful thing to do see it as a possible way of encouraging ministry and calling forth spiritual leadership, a way of encouraging those whose passion is for ministry and whose ministry encourages others to move ever deeper in the way of seeking to grow in knowledge of the light. You just told me when to stop, Bill. This
going.
quickening and enlivening is crucial to the health of any spiritual community. We believe that with care and oversight, it can be a useful tool, and that by nurturing and supporting individuals demonstrating qualities of spiritual leadership within the religious society of Friends, we will strengthen it as a religious body. It is also a way of supporting and affirming the individuals recorded as representatives of Quakerism outside the society.
Now, I wonder if you could drop down to the next paragraph.
Like skip a paragraph and
Yeah.
go to the last one.
Go to those of us.
Yeah. Those of us who feel that it may no longer be a useful or appropriate practice in the Society of Friends fear that it undermines the importance of every individual realizing his or her responsibility for ministry. We also feel that it can be perceived as implying that some have the gift and some don't, rather than remembering that all are gifted at times. While recognizing the importance of encouraging spiritual and organizational leadership, some of us do not see recording as a means to that end. We have a sense that the practice creates a kind of Quaker elite, which is not helpful, and that it is not appropriate to single out one particular kind of ministry to recognize rather than celebrating the gifts that each member brings to their meeting. Maybe the encouragement of gifts of all kinds is something we could be more intentional about rather than singling out this particular gift for recognition.
Thank you, Susan. So I think that they do a good job in this particular report about the pros and cons and thinking about the values of it. Do any folks in this group, do you record ministers in your meetings? Is anybody doing that practice?
No.
I would say there was a lot of discussion about it when I was in New England yearly meeting. And in both meetings in Pittsburgh and in Beacon Hill, we endorsed people, which is different than recording because they needed it for a professional reason.
Right. Thank you. I want to shift over to the idea of leadings and talk a bit about that now. So what is a leading? This is from an earlier edition of Faith and Practice Pacific Yearly Meeting. In the experience and understanding of Friends, a leading has these dimensions. There's a recognition of need, injustice, or other work to be done, an inward caring response to the need, injustice, or work to be done, a sense that one is somehow being asked to take action to meet the need, correct the injustice, and/or do the necessary work. A belief that one's sense of being asked to take action arises not merely from one's small self, but from a larger source: God, Christ, Spirit, the numinous, the real, the unconscious. So it's got a number of elements. It's an itch. There's a recognition of a need, in a sense that you're being called in some way to take action. The experience of being led, people talk about many different ways that a leading sort of becomes real for them. This is some ideas about that. A genuine leading may announce itself through overheard conversation that speaks directly to one's heart. It may arise as a persistent dream, a preoccupation or concern that one cannot shake off. It may become clear through painful realization that one's beliefs and actions are not congruent. Awareness of a leading may unfold slowly over time as one's heart opens more fully to truth. It may be work that is begun reluctantly, perhaps assigned by a nominating committee, yet grows into a labor of love. Kind of like the website for me, I think. Get going on that. So this idea is that it could be a dream that keeps coming up. It could be that you've heard other people talking and you're like, yes, that's what I'm feeling. There's a lot of different ways where this can sort of come into your life. Got a nice picture of George Fox there, getting ready to go out on the road, I guess, speak to people he's led. So I wanted I like this little book, Nudged by the Spirit, Stories of People Responding to the Still Small Voice of God. And what I like about the table of contents is that you can get a sort of an idea of these different situations by just reading the descriptor. So I'm hoping that we might have the Quaker Chorus kick in again and read down through these. The first one I'll do, and then we'll go down the line. I don't know if it's easier just for people to jump in or whether I should call names. I don't know what would be better. Seed money. The author and two friends create a fund to provide financial and prayer support for people responding to the nudges of the Spirit. I see Clemence at the top of my list, so could you try one, Clemence?
I'm having trouble focusing. Okay.
It might not be the best print size here.
Well, also I forgot to clean my glasses before I came on. You asked me to
Spiritual
read
discernment is the one I'm looking for.
discernment.
I could go to Karen.
Um,
I want to read down these, just give it brief descriptions.
you mean a spiritual discernment? Is that what you're looking
Yes,
at?
it's the second one going down the column.
Okay, William and Francis Tabor discuss the best way to use a sabbatical year of reflection, prayer, writing, and service. And I have to say that when I need inspiration, William Tabor's writings are ones I often turn to.
Made good use of that year of sabbatical, apparently. Somebody do the call for me.
The call. Lucy McIver receives a deathbed request to carry on a friend's ministry and finds that saying yes begins a life transformation, which leads to becoming a movement therapist.
Thank you. Somebody else?
Prayer and contemplation. Catherine Damiano is called into contemplative living and teaching others in the ministry of prayer and learning.
Support from faith community. Jill Horton Lyons and Jim Lyons find their struggle to create an educational farm and teach children and adults about sustainable agriculture is supported by their Quaker meeting community.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Small steps. Tom Goodrich teaches mentally retarded children in a public school in Harlem.
Mentors. Faith Lowell is inspired by her mentor into leading therapy groups for women in a Vermont prison. Let's go up to the next column.
Pilgrimage. Martha Penzer's personal history resonates with invitation to join a peace pilgrimage beginning at Auschwitz, Poland.
The struggle for justice. Elaine Bishop moves to northern Canada to join the Lubicon people's struggle to resist oppression. And when I heard her speak at Canadian Yearly Meeting, she really touched my soul when I heard her talk about this experience.
Nice.
Burnout and recovery. John Calvy's heavy schedule of massage and energy work with victims of abuse, torture, and AIDS leads to burnout and learning how to pace himself.
I'm passing because I can't see it clearly enough.
Creativity and healing. Arla Patch finds the therapeutic art workshops for breast cancer survivors are healing for herself as she facilitates the process of healing for others.
Singing. Jackie Karn brings new singers into the joy of participating in a chorus.
Awakening. Pamela Maddow creates and leads a pilgrimage to Hiroshima and Nagasaki to awaken people to the danger of nuclear weapons.
God's timing. Barbara Bazette represents Quakers on the World Council of Churches, where she finds herself in the right place at the right time to respond to a call to action, after which she feels released to pass on her work responsibilities to others.
So I think this is a nice selection of the kinds of things that people get called into. Some of them seem big, others are smaller or closer to home. Some of them are obviously supported by their meetings, and others are more individual, but maybe the support they receive is encouragement rather than financial. But for me, I thought it was this idea of being nudged by the Spirit is a good concept. Thank you for reading.
I'd like to mention that this title has been already put on my list for the book table for this year's and session.
Good one. I'm wondering if there are any examples of followed leadings from within our yearly meeting community that folks might mention here. John Calvi was part of Lake Erie, was he not? Who was the healer that we had amongst us?
Richard Lee.
Richard Lee. He had a leading.
Want to get some ice cream or?
Matilda Navius had a couple of leadings. She recorded the CD of hymns from using her Mountain Dulcimer, and then she wrote that book. And
Right.
Broadmead was involved. She had, I think, committees for both of them, and because I knew her more when she was writing the book, we helped her write that book. I mean, not write it. We helped her, like read it and edit it.
Nice.
And go through it.
Good example. That's a very useful reference book. Quaker Practice. Well, I've got in my own life the Alternatives to Violence Project work. I've been going into prisons. I got going again in 2019 and was going monthly for 3-day workshops in prisons supported by my meeting. And that was supported by Kalamazoo meeting friends, Joe and Kathy Osman, who really got Michigan going again when they came back in like 2016. They started going into Muskegon Correctional Facility. So those are both AVP related.
Is that still going on?
Yes. Ann Arbor is doing the Washtenaw AVP group is doing a lot of community workshops right now. It's very impressive with cross-cultural groups, Muslim and Christian folks working together. Our prison has asked us to pause since they have staffing problems. They don't have the officers to cover the space where we work. That's what they're telling us anyway. So we've been, since September, we've been standing down.
Mm-hmm.
I did go to the Quaker Haven camp recently. There was a cross yearly meeting event there, and we gave AVP mini workshops to folks. And there was a really, my group turned out to be cross-cultural. There was a Cuban group of friends, Quakers there. And so we were bilingual in my group we had half an hour notice that we were going to be bilingual. So the spirit moved and it all worked really well. But yeah, it was something.
I can't find the mute.
Is that Karen? Other thoughts? Anything else from LEYM that we might want to mention?
I wanted to share that in 2004, I had a clearness committee in my small Erie worship group, as well as the Benedictine sisters support. When I ended up going to Rwanda to work with 2 Kenyans, there were 2 of us who were Americans, 2 Kenyans, and 3 or 4 Rwandans. And we were trilingual in everything we did. The Americans spoke French to the Rwandans spoke Swahili to the Kenyans, and the Americans and the Kenyans spoke English together. And it was a marvelous experience, which when I came back to the United States and looked for service abroad, ended up spending 15 years working with Habitat for Humanity and Fuller Builders, because it was such a wonderful experience working with teams in a shared building experience. And I wish that we had been able to do more of that for our own yearly meeting, but I know it's not as easily done. I know we did it for several years in and around Bluffton, that part of Ohio.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just wanted to share that has been an experience I think, very transformational for me. And to have both my worship group and our local Benedictine sisters involved with the support group. The Benedictine sisters weren't exactly in the clearness group, just the friends were, but the fact that we had two communities of peace working together was very transformational for me.
Yes. Thank you. I think that there's been a variety of, I showed a picture of the Red Cedar mini pantry, but there's other things that groups are doing related to, there's the park, Kalamazoo has their Peace Park next to their building. There's a variety of ways where people take up a leading and make it real.
Ann Arbor Meeting has twice felt led to offer sanctuary, first to a family of people and then to an individual whose, well, their lives were in danger.
The Birmingham Friends meeting took on a Vietnamese refugee family and provided them with housing and support when they came over. That was many years ago.
Red Cedar Friends has started emphasis on homelessness. We've had a threshing session and having a second one this Saturday. Some people are, one homelessness camp has been closed by the courts and moved into an old hotel. So people in our meeting and other people are taking food there. So we're just starting to get involved in addressing homelessness.
Good. Well, I have a bit of humor. Sometimes leading can lead to a change of approach. The four horses of the apocalypse, this whole apocalypse thing got a bit too depressing. So we've reinvented ourselves as the four horsemen of working together to get us all out of this mess that we're in. There's hope, justice, empathy, and just basically not being a bad person. But I thought it was encouraging to see this cartoon. So let's talk a little bit about discernment, practicing discernment. What do you think of when you hear the phrase discernment? What comes to mind?
I think of it as thinking things over carefully.
Thank you.
Weighing different views.
Weighing different views.
Mhm.
Thinking about the spiritual elements of something, seeing whether God led. So here's from Pacific Yearly Meeting, Faith and Practice, individual discernment. Friends practice discernment in their individual lives, prayerfully seeking divine guidance in daily activities. They may also seek the meeting support in finding clearness when considering a change in life direction or proposing an action to follow a leading. The act of seeking God's guidance is assisted by the meeting to assure that what is sensed by one is tested and affirmed by the worshiping community. So this idea of, I think of Quakers as being uniquely individual and corporate, where we have individual leadings, but we also test them within the community. It's sort of like a magic sauce where there's room for an individual, but there's also this tempering or this encouraging or this nurturing that happens in the community that can help shape something into a very meaningful leading. I like Brent Bill. Maybe you're familiar with him. He's a humorist, but he has a book called The Sacred Compass, The Way of Spiritual Discernment. And so I have a selection here. You're familiar with this concept as way opens, as you're thinking about a direction you might take, and it seems like there might be blocks to it, and then a way opens. So I wanted to pull up a couple bits here, but he's talking about the sacred compass. So I'm wondering if I can get some help here. Susan Laux, can you read this starting just below the header there?
As Way Opens takes a different tack from either Ignatius or Warren. Instead of focusing on 4-week spiritual exercises or 40-day programs, As Way Opens points us to the constant presence of the Holy Spirit in our lives. The Holy Spirit is our sacred compass. Its role is to show us our way. Jesus said, and stop me if you
Keep
want me to
going.
stop. If you love me, you will be my commandments. I'm sorry, you will keep my commandments, and I will pray the Father, and he will give you another counselor to be with you forever, even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive because it neither sees him nor knows him. You know him, for he dwells with you and will be in you.
Keep going.
This gospel passage reminds us that God is with us in our pilgrimage. The indwelling paraclete, a Greek word that is sometimes translated as counselor, accompanies us. God gives us the paraclete to guide us into God's truth. The Holy Spirit fulfills Christ's promise that God will be with us forever as it works in our souls, teaching and guiding us.
Thank you.
There it cuts off, yeah.
Susan Hartman, are you available to read this second section here? Guiding and directing our lives.
We witness the work of our personal sacred compass. The early friends believed that the inner teacher spoke with a quiet voice heard in the soul, so they worshipped in silence. They sought souls still enough to hear the God who speaks in sacred silence. They weren't the first to hear God's voice in soulful stillness. After God directed the prophet Elijah to go stand on a mountain, he discovered that God was not in the earthquake, wind, or fire, but in the sound of sheer silence. Go out and stand on the mountain before the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by. Now there was a great wind, so strong that it was splitting mountains and breaking rocks in pieces before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a sound of sheer silence. When Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his mantle and went out and stood at the entrance of the cave.
So I was like this part about getting quiet enough and still enough to hear this voice, this leading that comes through. And I think that the Quaker meeting for worship that we do is sort of this space where we can create the opportunity to hear God who speaks in sacred silence. I've had some fun. I had a bit of a leading to at yearly meeting. We had the theme was navigating anew, and I did a silly thing that was fun with Quaker steampunk, where I had different projects. But I created these imaginary dials that we could hopefully, it'd be nice if we had one of these. I have my way openness meter, which has, depending on where the meter is set, you might need an eldering alert where you're really off track and you could use some correction, or convene a clearness committee, or proceed cheerfully. The way is wide open. I also had this inner light amplification where hopefully sometimes that you really let your light shine. But I wish that we had things like this where we could bring it to meeting and get a sense about sort of where the truth lies. But it's more up to us to use our Quaker senses to make this
There was
happen.
a chap in my old meeting who wished that at everybody's seat in the meeting there was a little dial, and as someone was speaking in meeting for business or perhaps in ministry, we could adjust the dial and a little flame would grow or shrink depending on how on point or led we thought that person was being. Perhaps this is a technology that could be introduced.
Yes. Okay. There's future innovation waiting for us. Yes. So
I would see that without the flame, though, Susan. It sounds kind of dangerous. Maybe could you like it a plazometer?
Plazometer. Yeah, or inner light meter, sort of a glow that increases. So in terms of guidance for meeting, recognizing spiritual gifts and leadings, there's some work to be done for monthly meetings. I have this example in the packet that it was sort of a nicely done, maybe 3-page or a 4-page handout talking about some guidance from Illinois yearly meeting. I just pulled out a few bits here. In Quaker parlance, a gift is a God-given ability that is intended to be used for spiritual purposes, while a leading is a call to action based on a friend's sense that God has led her or him to take a particular cause, for example, pastoral counseling or chaplaincy in a prison or hospital. Such leadings typically emerge as a result of prayerful consideration of a concern, and they often reflect the gifts of the person who is led to act on them. So we have a new word added in here, concern. We have gifts, leadings, and concerns. But as this document goes on, it talks about preparing for discernment of gifts and leadings. It can be helpful for monthly meetings to prepare themselves for requests involving leadings and ministries. In part, this involves simply being aware that such requests may occur and that they may reflect God's will concerning various members of the meeting community. However, the meeting might also wish to consider how it might handle requests of this kind before they come about. In some cases, a gift or leading may call for special recognition and or support from a friend's home meeting. They provide some sample clearness committee questions that might be raised depending on the circumstance. I'm wondering if the chorus could get going on this one with me. What is the nature of the leading?
What gifts are necessary to follow the leading?
Is this the right time for you to follow the leading?
I see it.
Are there aspects of the leading that you're still seeking to clarify and for which the meeting can offer assistance?
What challenges do you expect to face? How can the meeting help you handle these challenges?
If the meeting provides you with formal recognition, will that help to advance the leading? How so?
How will
following the leading affect your spiritual journey? How might it deepen the spiritual life of the meeting community?
How will following the leading affect your other responsibilities, including responsibilities to the meeting?
What kind of spiritual and practical support will you need in order to follow the leading? How much of that support do you expect the meeting to provide?
So I thought these struck me as useful questions. I know that depending on the different ways that you choose to support somebody's leading, a meeting might release somebody to travel, for instance, and provide support to them. So there's different levels of support. Are there other questions that you might want to throw into the hopper if you were having a clearness session with Clemence planning to go to Rwanda or other cases like that?
No, in a meeting last Sunday, there was a young man who spoke what many of us feel, that, things are so awful in the world and I really need to do something, but I don't know what to do. And he said he just kept going around in a circle like that. And what I started pondering was that hard thing of figuring out what is yours to do, as opposed to you can see a thing that needs to be done, but how do you know that is your work?
Mm-hmm.
That struck me in a slightly different wording. The question that occurred to me was, why you and why now?
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, these are provided in the handout in the packet, so people can get their hands on it. There's these ideas, travel minutes, letters of endorsement, and letters of introduction are some ways that friends demonstrate their support. Under special circumstances, which are often related to spiritual gifts and leadings, a monthly meeting may see fit to issue a letter to an individual friend. The various types of letters are indicated and explained below. See the handout. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's worth taking the time to go into these, other than to say that there's some nuance to these differences. Like a letter of introduction is saying this person is known to us and we would like you to welcome them into your community, which is different from a letter supporting somebody to be released into the ministry or being released to travel. Letters of endorsement could be that they have a particular project and you want to say that you know their work and you can endorse it. So there are different bits. In my business meeting coming up this next first day, we're going to have a request coming forward about a travel minute. And so we'll be beginning the process of setting up a clearness committee to sort of figure some of that out. But something to be thinking about is like, what are the different approaches? I think we had some of this happening in Lake Erie yearly meeting. It actually reached the yearly meeting level after having been approved at a monthly meeting level. And so this also can touch us at the yearly meeting level. I was thinking about some phrases that we hear friends say that in our peculiar language that might relate to gifts and leading. So I pulled a few out of my mind. There might be some others that you would add, but that friend is outrunning their guide. This idea that they're sort of getting ahead over their skis, they're getting ahead of their leading, they're going too far too fast. They are testing a leading, this idea that leadings need to be tested, so there's a sort of a process to them. We learn truth experientially, so trying something out is how we grow. An experiment with truth. That friend is well used. Maybe you've heard that phrase where they seem to be really putting their gifts to good use. God has found a way to really call them into action. More seasoning is required. This idea that some idea is not really ready, it's not fully prepared. And don't hide your light under a bushel. This idea that many times our gifts are not being, our leadings are not being followed, and maybe we need to be more active. Are these phrases familiar, and are there other phrases that friends might also think would fit into this?
I actually have heard, whose leading is this? Yours or God's?
Mm-hmm. I think we have a peculiar friendly way of speaking. I've heard this outrunning their guide phrase used in a variety of ways to try to temper something that somebody is eager about. It might be in the category of eldering. I'm not sure, but the idea is that if you're going to test a leading among friends, there needs to be ways to either say go further, go faster, or slow it down. Put on the brakes, and finding a way to do that. I think clearness committees are good because they're relatively small and private. But there's also in business meeting where people will speak up. Somebody says that friend speaks my mind, or they show caution. But I think friends tend to be pretty kind and gentle in their phrasing. Would you agree? I hope so. Okay, so I'm coming around the bend to my experimental spiritual gifts inventory activity. I put this in the packet, so I was thinking it might be something you could pull out at your monthly meeting and try it out sometime. The way that it works is that there are 12 questions, but they are in 4 different bundles. So as you score them, then you would go to the bottom of the page and add your scores up for the encouragement and mercy bundle, the teaching and insight bundle, the leadership and wisdom bundle, and the social justice and generosity bundle. And whichever group has the highest score is giving you some information about whether you have a particular cluster, a particular basket for you of things. My experiment with this, so you're scoring like 0 is rarely true of me, 1 is sometimes true of me, 2 is often true, and 3 is very true. So I want to, I'm going to ask you to try it using the Zoom polling system. I've set it up so it's anonymous, and we're not going to be able to get the scoring. We're just going to get a sense of amongst this group, how are we distributed amongst this group? So it won't be the way that you might use it in meeting. Before we go over to that, I wanted to also mention one other project. The Beacon Hill Friends House, where Susan is quite familiar, Susan Laux, they did a vocational discernment project. It's designed to help friends get a greater clarity on living into your call. And it's online at that web link there. It's also in the packet. There's a link to it. It includes a workbook, but it's sort of introducing clearness to sort of like college age kids, young people. So this idea of discerning your leading. So I thought that was useful to know about. So let me see about running this. I don't know if I can do a poll while I'm sharing. I probably should stop sharing. And there's your friendly faces. So I'm going to try now and see, where is the polling? Here we go. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to answer this quickly. This is not a deep deliberation. This is sort of like a quick take, anonymous, but there are 12 questions, so you'll have to move down through them, selecting your answers that speak to you. I see there's a hand raised. Peggy and Jeff.
Yeah, so for those of us where there are 2 people in the room, we do need a few moments to discern.
Maybe just one of you will play along for this one, and then we can, you can use the paper copy later.
Okay, so we can actually just mark on this pop-up?
I think you should be able to mark on the pop-up.
I may have done this wrong. I saw only 2 questions and hit submit thinking it was going to go to another page, but
It
appears that
scrolls.
I should have scrolled down. Can I see it again or something?
I don't know how to do that.
Oh, well.
Yeah, I've never tried this. It's long.
Yeah,
but
well, I only answered 2 questions.
all right. So
I did the same thing, Susan. I did.
Thank you. That makes me feel better.
okay, well, I'm gonna have to work on my presentation skills here. And I'm not sure how it appears on tablets versus computers. It's all very mysterious.
I'm not really sure what's going on.
So as you scroll down through the gifts inventory, you're selecting the answer that's how true it is for you. And then you hit submit when you're done.
I see.
if you answer, it gives me joy to give money, please get in touch with me.
What are you recruiting for, Bill?
I'm actually fine, but I'm sure there are good causes. AVP is always raising money. Looks like we're maybe one or two more people, and then we'll get a chance to look at what we've got.
We are able to write on it either, so.
I'd say, Bill, that I feel like with the leadings that it's different when you've got one person versus a meeting, right? Like to say, okay, this is you're leading and you're discerning it sort of as an individual thing, and that the procedure and what will happen is different than if like the meeting is actually taking that under their care. There's different levels of accountability and a different responsibility or ability to say, hey, slow down, or like that sort of thing if the meeting is sort of taking it on as theirs.
Right.
So
because we see that in business meeting, right, where there's a corporate discernment together working through things that's different. But it may also involve individuals who bring that to the group.
yeah.
But I think you're right about the idea of accountability and getting clarity on what it is that we're seeing and what it is we're supporting may take time. Okay, so I think it looks like just about everybody has got a chance to submit some of this. If you hit that submit button to finish it, and then I'm going to end the poll. So, okay, so let me end the poll. And then I'm going to try something called share results. We'll see what happens. Can you see it now? Did it pop up? So we see people look to me for calm guidance when a group is tense or confused. Often true is 4 out of the 8 that answered that question. Sometimes true. I enjoy explaining spiritual and moral ideas in ways others can easily understand. This is sometimes true for the majority of folks, but there's one person at least where it's very true. I notice who feels left out and try to include them. This is sometimes true for the majority of folks in this group and often true. I am drawn to pray regularly for people or situations. Sometimes true for the majority.
This is what I feel like if we're going to make a generalization here, we can say that prayer seem to be less gifted in prayer in this room than we are in other things.
Yeah.
We probably don't need to go through one by one, Bill.
Yeah. But you can see them.
But the way I've been trying to explain, I'm not doing prayer the way, for example, the people with whom I teach in the Catholic school are talking about. But one of the ways I am, particularly when I'm out in nature, is to just sit in a spot and just hold somebody in the light, literally visualizing a halo of light around them. So is that prayer, or is that simply turning my spirit, whatever the spirit or God's spirit, onto that, putting on that person? I mean, that's something that I've been struggling with, this particular word.
Right. Yeah.
To me, there isn't any one way of doing it.
Holding in the light versus prayer. But as I scrolled through that, I noticed that we do have a variety of areas where there are some people who really like giving people rides or helping other people out. There are some people who are interested in teaching. I'm glad that there's a distribution, is what I'm saying as I look at the responses. I think it's encouraging. I wonder if we might just open up for a little bit of discussion about the whole concept of gifts of leading before we wrap up for the evening. Do friends have any responses to these questions that came up, or more generally about the territory that we've covered tonight?
I'd say we're a fairly modest group.
Yeah.
I found it personally a bit discouraging as I went through the list. I thought, gee, I don't know, that's not really me. No, that's just sort of me. No, I don't think that's me. And I thought, boy, pretty rotten Quaker.
Oh no, that wasn't the goal of this particular activity. You're a basket case. And,
question that got left out is, are you particularly self-effacing? Does this need to be corrected?
Good. Yes. Well, I feel like meetings could do more to invite friends to see a range of gifts, to not have it just be, I need to get you onto this committee because we need to fill a slot, but more like, I can see something in you that sort of excites me. I feel like there's a spark in you when we talk about this particular issue, and I'd like to find ways to give some oxygen to that. So I'm hoping that meetings will be thinking about how can we sort of encourage this. I know in my monthly meeting, I'm amazed at how we are in rented space, and it's like a group, an orchestra of people getting it ready and setting things up and greeting people when they come in and providing food. And it feels like people are finding their niche and doing the work together. But it really hums along nicely. So I'm pleased about people doing different bits of it. I see Susan has a comment about Beacon Hill.
Yeah, it just says that they were trying really hard to make nominating about just that. So they renamed the committee Gifts and Leadings.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think it's yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Susan.
Okay.
I guess I was you go for sure, for reals.
Okay, I was just going to say, when I saw that basket of gifts, I thought maybe we should, maybe the nominating committee should go from that direction rather than, what committee do you want to be on? Sort of have people fill out, where do you fall in this basket kind of thing, and then say, well, then I think you'd be a good fit for this committee.
Interesting.
Whatever.
Yeah. I in the packet, I put together a sort of a 2-pager you could print on the front and the back that could be used in a discussion after the rise of meeting. You could use the whole packet, but and then there's that inventory, so that it could be a way to raise a discussion relatively low, not too complicated if you want to have this conversation with your group. Susan, are you collecting emails for people who want to get a copy of that packet? How will they get that packet?
Yeah, if you want Bill's packet, you can either email me, because a lot of people here have my email, or if you would rather drop your email into the chat, the meeting chat, then I will take that and make sure that you get a copy.
It's also on the laym.org website, because I downloaded it before this meeting and I've been following along on it.
Right. Yeah, on the announcement of this event, it's there. I'm thinking maybe I'll upload the slides from this as well. They cover the same territory, but I think maybe I'll put them up there in the same spot. I want to go ahead and share my closing slide before I log off of here. So may you let your life speak. Thank you for joining me this evening. I'm hoping I'm doing a little promo here for yearly meeting. That's where the gifts are really showing up. This is our logo for this year's gathering: community, joy, courage, and hope. It's going to be June 18th through 21st at Ashland. So the program committee with Clemence as our clerk has been doing a great job getting organized. Valerie's on that committee. And we have Doug Gwynn coming back for Bible study, and Joe Volk from Ann Arbor Friends Meeting, who's been clerk of Friends Committee on National Legislation at one point, executive director.
Yes.
So we're really happy to have him coming as our plenary speaker this year. But so thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording now, and then we can carry on. Stopping share.
Bill, I just wanted to add, because I happen to be on nominating
Yes.
FWCC section of the Americas, this is my last